The most important question right now for the economy, aside from Jerome Powell's metaphors about navigating the dark, is when the recession hits. All major schools of economics predict it is coming, since all major schools know interest rates cause recessions. But it is worth breaking down why. So I'm an Austrian economist, which essentially means a non-government economist. The Austrian school got its name because the Prussian economists were all government funded and the poor Austrians were not. It has nothing to do with Austria. It simply means economists who are not paid shills for the regime. Instead, we actually use economic theory. And 500 years of economic theory says recessions don't happen on their own. They are not a natural part of the business cycle of inflation and recession. Rather, governments cause them. Sometimes by war, but in modern times, almost always by central banks. Specifically, central banks push interest rates too low, which makes money cheap. It's a gift to borrowers, which is rich people and the federal government above all. But that cheap money isn't just a handout. It actually sparks an economic boom as free credit flows to everybody, including to crappy businesses that never should have gotten loans in the first place. The 25th app selling artisanal DIY bentos, perhaps, or NFTs of Bored Apes or WeWork. You get the picture. These crappy businesses called malinvestments can grow like a weed even if they're losing billions of dollars because they just borrow more. Sadly, the boom is a tissue fire. It burns bright, but it burns short. Because all that activity bids up prices, you get inflation. At which point the central bank panics, it slams on the brakes and hikes interest rates, since inflation triggers voters who could push Congress to end the Fed. Hiking rates chokes off new loans, it crushes household spending, so now there's less money chasing goods and inflation comes down. It takes a while since companies and households are still running through the old cheap loans, empirically about 12 to 18 months. So the cheap money made the boom, and then slamming on the brakes made the bust after 12 to 18 months running on fumes. At which point the recession hits, the Fed yanks rates back down to zero, so money is cheap again, and the cycle gets to start over. Government, of course, thrives at every stage of this horror show, which is why it continues. When the money's cheap, government steers investment into politically favored industries like solar or wind, or even into government-funded nonprofits. When the crash hits, they bail out their donors, and they pour fresh trillions into welfare schemes that buy future votes. The end result is a ratchet. Boom or bust, the government grows, at the cost of destroying trillions in wealth and millions of lives over and over. So what's next? Brought to you by Unchained. What's next is we're smack in that running on fumes stage, that 12 to 18 month purgatory between panic hikes and economic devastation. Unless the lockdowns themselves cleared out so much dead wood, malinvestment, that we got a clean slate, we are now living on borrowed time with 12 to 18 months until a recession that, if we're lucky, will only be as bad as 2008. To read the rest of the article with charts, check out profsaintange.com, and we'll be watching. See you next time.